So good evening, everyone. We're just waiting for a couple of minutes before other people can join in. There seems to be a little bit of a technical problem. So one of the candidates is just taking a moment to join us. So let's just give him a minute. And as soon as he comes on and his video comes on, we will be happy to get started. So just give him a minute.
Govind is in. Only thing is his video had to come on. He joined just now.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay. Govind, your video is not yet on. If you could turn it on, that'll be great. Yep, we can see you.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. It is 7:02. We were a little bit later than we thought we would be, but we had some technical issues. Any case, we're all here and we're all on video. I think at least the candidates are on video. That's the most important thing. I request you kindly to put whatever questions you have into the chat. You're all going to be muted. You won't have a chance to be able to talk, but you can definitely ask your questions through the chat and we'll address every one of them, or at least as many as we can under the circumstances. So first of all, before we get started, I want to quickly introduce all of the candidates, and we'll give them about 3 to 5 minutes to talk about themselves or their candidacy, and from there we'll get started with any questions that anyone has. So the 4 candidates we have on is of course Mayor Scharf, who is standing for re-election, Kitty Moore, who's the chairperson of the Planning Commission, Sudha Kasamsetty, who is standing for election for CUSD, and Govind Tatachari, who is standing for the Foothill de Anza board. So with that, I'd like to get started. Mayor Scharf, can you take it away? And Vinod, can you please mute everybody else?
Yes.
Wow, I get to go first. Great. So I was elected in 2016 to Cupertino City Council. I've served as mayor for 2 years now. First selected in December 2018, selected again in December 2019 by my council colleagues. For those of you that don't know, Cupertino does not elect a mayor directly. We choose a mayor from among the city council members. I'm a 21-year resident of Cupertino, moving here in 1999. My children attended Eaton Elementary, Lawson Middle, and Cupertino High School, and now are out of the house, and we are empty nesters. However, my son came back to teach at Homestead High School and Cupertino High School. He teaches band and orchestra. So before being elected to the city council, besides being an electrical engineer, I was pretty active volunteer in the community and the schools. Unlike 2 of my opponents, and you know who they are, I don't take money from developers, lobbyists, political action committees, or AstroTurf special interest groups. So I don't answer to them. And I believe that Cupertino needs experienced leaders that are not funded and controlled by developers and special interests. And I've been advocating for the best interests of Cupertino voters basically all the time I've been here. You can visit my website, Scharf4Cupertino.com. And I've got a lot of position papers, more than most people want to read, but I think it's important for the people that are policy wonks like me to be able to know what each candidate's positions are. Even if you disagree with me, I'm sure even in Better Cupertino, which I was not a founder, but I have participated, worked with them, but I know that we disagree on some issues, even among ourselves, because we are not a group that is all of one mindset. We have people from all political parties and all points of view. And that's what's great about that group. We all get along, even if we don't agree on everything. Some of my key issues are homelessness, COVID-19, bicycle safety, Lehigh, the environment. I was endorsed by the Sierra Club, and of course, local control. I was just on a call earlier today with the California Association of Local Electeds, or CALI. We had a great talk with a developer from Southern California who gave us a lot of insight on why our legislators do the terrible things they do and what we can do to address it. So thank you, everyone. And I think I will let it go at that.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor Scharf. It's very nice to have you as a mayor twice, which is something that nobody else has had the distinction of having. It clearly speaks to what you do.
One time it did. One other time it happened.
Okay,
actually.
that must have been before I was here.
Yeah,
I've been here for over 30 years. All right. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kitty Moore, our the chairperson for the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you, Sashi. So I am Kitty Moore. I am a 25-year resident of Cupertino, and I'm the proud mother of 2 grown sons who attended our local public schools and now hold multiple degrees. I have spent decades volunteering in the sports leagues and in the classroom. I am qualified for the city council position because I am uniquely the sole civil engineer among the candidates or council. In fact, my background is in land development and I am pro-sensible growth. I'm the chair of the Planning Commission and the Environmental Review Committee, and I have had advanced California Environmental Quality Act training. I was raised in Vermont. I attended the University of Vermont on an Air Force ROTC scholarship, and I have all veteran siblings, husband, father, and uncles. I notably was a petitioner in the Valco lawsuit to defend the city against the largest project in the city's history, which unfortunately used a housing law to worsen the housing shortage. Everyone complains about the Valco SB 35 project, yet I am the only candidate who volunteered working for the attorneys for nearly 2 years and up to 15 hours a day when our 2018 city council refused to defend the residents. You will not see my signs in front of developers' property because I am not beholden to special interest groups, and you can count on me to defend the residents, do my homework, provide detail-oriented and efficient analysis, make difficult decisions, collaborate rationally, and care about equity across our community while we continue to improve our quality of life. Thank you.
Great. I have to first figure out this mute button today for some reason. Thank you, Kitty. First of all, let's say thanks to your family and yourself for what you did for the country, and also appreciate you going out of your way to stand up for the city as far as SB 35 is concerned. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Sudha Kasamsetty. Sudha, please.
Thank you. Thank you again. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Sudha Kasamsetty, candidate for Cupertino Union School District Board member. I have a master's degree in computer engineering. I'm an engineering leader for the past 19 years, worked at companies like Google and Microsoft. I've been resident of Cupertino for the past 16 years and have raised 2 children in our schools, with my younger one currently enrolled in CUSD. I've had the pleasure of participating as an active parent volunteer in various school programs such as PTA Reflections, Spelling Bee, Project Cornerstone, volunteering fairs, and I have probably taken up every volunteering job out there in our elementary schools. I also run dance school, Indian classical dance school, from the past 15 years and must have taught more than 800 kids now, and I'm proud to see them emerge as great dancers as well as strong leaders. In that same vein, my experience as an engineering leader in the Silicon Valley for the past 19 years has inspired me to organize and lead conferences to inspire and bring together more than 1,500 women leaders in tech. I'm a founder of that small startup, and my varying passions and projects have amplified the importance of a very well-rounded education for our children with a healthy mix of liberal arts as well as STEM. Beyond this, I have also amassed administrative experience through my service on CUSD's Citizen Advisory Committee as a Fine Arts Commissioner for City of Cupertino, board member for De Anza Lions Club International, and advisor for Leo's Club at Lynbrook High School. I've chaired Right for Diabetes community event and worked with several community leaders towards raising $25,000 with around 200 bikers, founded grassroots programs like Youth for Change and Citizen Focus Group, which has about parents from all the 25 plus schools that we have. As a parent of 2 kids in Cupertino schools, I know firsthand how important Cupertino schools are for the parents and community in general. So why am I running today? Excellent schools are the legacy of our communities, and we should care about CUSD election, particularly now, because CUSD, it's not a secret, is plagued with big financial issues, and there is an urgent need to fix that. Status quo is not acceptable with no concrete plans to edge the budget gap. Today, there is a strong proposal to close multiple schools. There is a need for increased parent engagement now, more so than ever. That's one of the things I'll bring to the board, and one of the reasons I want to run for the board representing parents' voice. We need to have a long-term solution in place, like square footage model for parcel tax, which does not increase the tax for the rest. You get a lot of revenue from other sources like apartment complex, which probably I'll have an opportunity to go in detail with later today. For the budget, the district had opportunities that it couldn't make use of, Measure O and CUSD 25. So we need to make up for that. We need to focus and make sure that we bridge that budget gap with this new thinking. My idea is simple: make parents and community equal partners to the board in deciding the district's future. In short snippet, what I'm standing for is increased parent engagement to bring back that community trust that we are lacking, new thinking to bridge the budget gap through square footage model, which avoids permanent school closures. And I'm no to school closures. We need to save all of our schools, especially now, not the right time. And work towards excelling our quality of education with robust distance learning experience and safe reopening whenever it is the right thing to do. So that's what I'm standing for, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Sudha. I have my oldest daughter actually was a dancer with Sudha. One thing I can say for sure, parent involvement is her primary way of thinking, unfortunately for my daughter, but she had to practice a little bit more because she got me involved in this. But anyway, I do believe that she will make her stay true on her promises of getting the parents involved. So I look forward to seeing you on the board. With that, I'll turn it over to Govind. Please, Govind. You might want to unmute yourself, Govind.
So can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, so I'm Govind Tatachari. I'm running for Foothills De Anza board position, and as you all know, Foothills De Anza, one of the colleges, De Anza, is in Cupertino, and we are very proud of that particular place. And De Anza and Foothills they command a very respected by among the community colleges, and we have enrollments from outside the district, which far exceeds the enrollment from within the district. It provides a very good platform for transfer students in terms of their ability to get into the colleges, higher colleges like UC, CSUs, which they would like to target. And the other thing about De Anza College is essentially that I think they provide they are pretty excellent. They are pretty well-run colleges, and we just want to ensure that we are able to maintain that excellence. We are right now going through a pandemic-related havoc, so to say, across the society. So we need to make sure that we are able to sustain both its academic excellence as well as its affordability. And in terms of my goals, I'm more targeted about ensuring that there is more transparency in the system. We definitely need video archives of both the board meetings and the committee meetings being made online, so that people know exactly how that particular system is run. They have ability to kind of asynchronously, online be able to access archives. And be able to, it's not possible for everybody to be present at the time the board meetings are run. So that's one of the main things in terms of transparency. Of course, there's also the issue of both the budget for the Puerto de Anza College runs close to $200 million annually. And we also have a bond measure recently passed, which is about $898 million, close to $900 million. So if you look at the bond, by the time it's paid off in 35 years, it'll balloon probably between close to about $2 billion. I can't put the figure because these rates are very variable. So, you can't predict 35 years ahead what's going to happen. But I believe the maximum interest rate is about 12% as per what I've read in the text for the measure. And that is one money which we really want to make sure that we get the best ROI on, because it's a once in a lifetime kind of a thing that can happen. So that's one part which is also very critical to my platform. The second is that we actually want to make sure that we guarantee student success, and student success is essentially the outcomes in terms of whether if you're a transfer student, you're able to make a successful transfer. If you're going for vocational degrees, you should be able to transition, get the vocational degrees. You don't have to kind of find a suitable employment related to what you're trying to pursue as a goal. So the match between the goals and also what the industry needs is one area where I think a lot of improvements can be done, especially because the industry is changing. So that's the second part. The third part is that I definitely think that, there's also a need for us to ensure that we have good engagement with the community, not only in terms of the community, which is the voter community and, the community which defines what community college is all about, but also in terms of the community, in terms of the ecosystem that is around us. The Puerto de Anza College cannot do everything on their own. They have to depend on the ecosystem for many of the other services that they would like to provide to the students, faculty, and staff. So, we need a better involvement across the ecosystem, especially in the Bay Area. So the other thing that we can do is industrial liaison, which is also help for the students to be able to find the right kind of training that they need. And, also the idea of being able to even find, part-time employment if it is possible, or, go through the internship programs. So these are the things that I have in terms of as my platform. And I hope that this is something which the voters would find appealing and they will vote for me. So in terms of the 4 focus areas for me is a student success, transparency and accountability, matching programs to needs, and community support. I hope we will have a very interesting an hour and a half of discussions. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Govind. I think a lot of people here, your priorities are perfect, but you have a lot of focus on the students, but I think a lot of the people around here are very interested in what is going on in the board from a transparency perspective. We just approved what, 898 million, and we'd like to have a glimpse of what's going on with that money. So that's a good thing. We'd love to hear from you. Hopefully you get on the board and you'll be able to join. Looks like there are some questions coming in, but please everybody put in your questions into the chat. You can either send them to me or you can send them to everyone. It's your choice how you like to send them in. So with that, I would like to get started with the first question to Steve. So what will you do as a city council member to enact policies that will help our schools with funding and becoming solvent?
Okay, so as everyone knows, our school districts are separate from our city. However, our decisions make a big difference in terms of both funding and enrollment. So one thing, and it was already mentioned by Sudha, we need to fix the huge parcel tax inequities and have the school districts follow the Berkeley BSET model, which is a per square foot parcel tax. It's the same rate for residential and commercial. Originally, they tried to have different rates for residential and commercial, but that was turned out to not be legal. So they have 1 square foot tax, and it's for K through 12. And the last time it was up for renewal, it passed by 89% to 11%. Now it's almost an unbelievable margin of victory. And I've heard some people say, well, it's too complicated. You won't be able to explain it to voters. But I think our voters are probably just as smart as the voters in the Berkeley School District. It just takes outreach by the politicians from all 6 cities that comprise CUSD and Fremont Union High School District. And I think we can get this passed. We have to get it passed. Our school's future depends upon it. In terms of enrollment, our housing element, which is coming up for the next RENA cycle, we should be choosing sites for new housing that are near the under-enrolled schools, because we can't put all the housing into areas where the schools are actually already overcrowded and people are being sent outside their neighborhoods. So there are places to do this. There's along Bub Road, there's along South De Anza Boulevard between Rainbow and Prospect. There's a lot of obsolete one-story buildings there. Now, of course, we may zone for this, but as we've seen in the current RENA cycle, zoning for housing and actually having the property owners build the housing are 2 very different things. And a little earlier this afternoon, I was on a call with the California Association of Local Electeds. We had a developer from Southern California talking about this whole issue. And he had some excellent ideas about the kind of housing people want. Detached row houses and townhouses are very popular for sale housing. The issue right now with apartments, they're not selling. I mean, they're not being built because the construction cost is so high and the rate of return is not sufficient because the rents have been coming down. So we need to encourage the right kind of housing. I personally am in favor of Proposition 15. I know this is not everyone is. This is the split roll tax that would tax commercial property different than residential. It would get rid of the Prop 13 protections for certain commercial property over a certain valuation. Govind, can you mute yourself, please?
Okay.
Because you're showing up instead of me. Thank you. And it would also be very nice, all the portable classrooms on all the campuses in CUSD. If the schools are under enrolled, they obviously don't need all those portables anymore. And that's a big issue with a lot of parents. I would also think that the proposition, and I forget the number, I think it's 19, the inter-county base value transfer, which would encourage people to have more property turnover in Santa Clara County. So if you're retired, no kids in school, you might want to move someplace less crowded and your house would be sold to somebody with children. And I know this failed 2 years ago and it's controversial, but personally, I think it's a good idea. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Scharf. I'm taking a minute today for some reason to press the mute here. So there's a follow-on question, sort of a related question actually, and I would address that. I mean, it's really to anybody, but I'll ask Kitty to take that up. Says on Bub Road, there was a recent sale of some property. What are some of your ideas / vision for the area? If there's no right or wrong answer, I guess, for this one. So tell us something of what you would like to see there.
Okay, well first, okay, thank you, Sashi. First, I would like to mention that I am not for Prop 15 at this point. I had originally leaned towards it. It could provide 9.3 million to CUSD. However, that is after we lose money to the state or to local governments, and then that'll be the remainder going to CUSD. And the problem with that tax is that you can end up with a triple net lease agreements and forcing our small business owners to have increase in their lease amount. So I don't think that during a pandemic, when we're having troubled economic times, that this is the right time to increase their rents, essentially. And also because we're looking at these square foot property tax model, you would end up double dinging essentially these commercial properties, because if you do Prop 15, it's on the commercial property side, it's reassessing those properties at market rate value. And so you would be dinging them there. And then once again, if you go to the square foot model, that is the same rate across the board. So your residential properties would get a tax of maybe 10 cents per square foot, and your commercial properties are going to get a tax of maybe 10 cents per square foot going to CUSD. So I don't like the trickle down method that would work from Prop 15, and I think it can cause more damage economically and locally than we want to see. Let's see. With regards to Bub Road, I've heard different opinions about that area. Some people want to see it as a little downtown area, and other people are concerned about the traffic and whether or not there's enough capacity in that area. So I think it's an intriguing idea, an interesting area where you could provide housing on the upper floors and ground floor retail and restaurants. It's an interesting idea, but the traffic study would have to be able to demonstrate that it could handle that. Mayor Scharf was talking about the RENA numbers. Would like to mention there's kind of a myth that, you know, the Valco property is going to save the schools. If you have a property that's assessed at $1 billion, the school is only going to get $2.5 million annually returned in property tax, which isn't going to save the school. And also going back to that Valco project, the affordable units there would cost nearly $1 billion for that developer to build. So the community benefits of those units far outweigh the financial community benefits, which were being offered, you know, a factor of 10 at least. So with regards to the RENA numbers, those big housing numbers, we're looking at about 6,500 units, which are going to have to be sited across the city. In fact, Contra Costa County the other night was trying to make us have even higher numbers at 8,000 to 10,000, and Mayor Scharf and myself and Vice Chair Wong and the Vice Mayor were all online, you know, arguing against this so that we weren't going to have the numbers get even bigger. So we need to definitely cite these new housing units where the schools are needing the families there. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Katie. There is another related question. I think both Mayor Scharf and Katie, you both can share it. This is regarding, okay, we're talking about the square footage model of the parcel tax. And I know people will always look into it. Okay, that's going to bring more money, but how much money it is going to bring? Will it really suffice? Especially CUSD, the dollars are keep on growing from 4 to 7 to 11 to whatever. Will that really be sufficient? And also, what percentage will be considered as pass? I think it's 2/3 for my question, but I think you can answer. What percentage would be considered as a pass of that parcel tax in case if it is put through the system?
So the parcel tax requires a 2/3 majority to pass. And as to how much money it would provide, well, you know, that's for CUSD to decide what level they want to set it at, and that would have to be done probably with a consulting company that would do polling and determine what would be practical to pass. We all saw that the $125 per parcel tax failed in March. Now, they didn't do a very good job in promoting that parcel tax. There was some issue with their consultant being out and someone substituting. But I think, you know, I can't speak for the other cities in CUSD. You know, there's 6 cities. But man, I would be out there campaigning like crazy for this because, you know, even if it was at a level that increased my own tax, and even though I don't have kids in the schools anymore, I mean, I am a, you know, big believer in the quality of our public schools. And I guess a disclaimer, my son does teach in Fremont Union High School District now, although this would be a CUSD tax. But, you know, the amounts are not huge in the whole scheme of things. And there will be a senior exemption. In Berkeley, they actually have a low income exemption, which I think makes more sense than a senior exemption, because while many seniors are low income, not all of them are. Some of them could quite afford a small parcel tax. So that's my position on it. But really, CUSD needs to go out and figure out the amounts.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Scharf. And Kitty, do you would like to add any point on top of it, please?
I would. I'm going to make a plug for my website first. Please visit kittyforcupertino.org. I have a page on the CUSD square footage parcel tax concept. So if you take a single family home, 2,500 square feet, you want it to still be paying the $250, for example, that's a 10-cent amount, 10 cent per square foot amount. And you might end up needing something actually considerably less than that. I don't know. And if you have an apartment building that's around 160,000 square feet, so they would be paying $16,000. And assume you've got maybe 250 units there, you're looking at about a $59 per unit tax. So currently that 160,000 square foot apartment complex would only be paying $250 in parcel tax to the district. So it straightens out the inequity there. And it also, why I was saying don't vote for the Prop 15, why I don't support it, is because it also would have the commercial properties taxed at the 10 cents per square foot as well. So we would be double taxing them in this system if we do it that way. And I also didn't feel that Prop 15 going to market rate and not having the residential side having the same, go to market rate policy in there, I didn't think that that was fair. I agree that the commercial side is not paying their fair amount. When Prop 13 started, it was, let's see, 60% of our taxes were coming from the commercial side and 40% were coming from the residential side. And now we've flipped over the other way. So residential is 60% and the commercial is 40%, because there's ways that they can avoid the reassessment that we don't have. So I think I have completely, there, I unmuted. Okay, so I believe I finished that. Was there any part, Gopal, that I needed to?
Yeah, thank you. I think that helps. I think both combined, I think it gives some clarity.
Okay.
Because always this is a question from people's mind. Okay, we are putting, you're all promising as a candidate some alternate one, but we have no idea even that alternate is going to solve it or not. So it is all in their mind. Just to make sure that more clarity would absolutely will help them.
I want to add one point. When we tried to get the data from the Santa Clara County, it was going to cost us about $5,000, and even at getting just a single data point was $900, and that was just give us the entire square footage you have for CUSD district, and we'll work something out and try to come up with what square foot to the dollar amount it would be. We still don't have that data point. I think CUSD itself should be able to provide us with that, so that when people ask this question, we can give them something, a better answer.
Sure, thank you, appreciate it. Maybe Shashi, you would like to go for the other candidate.
Sure. So this question is to Sudha. So our residents prefer small neighborhood schools within walkable distance instead of distant, overcrowded mega schools where they need to drive to drop and pick up kids. How do you think we can prevent, what are some of your ideas on how to prevent school closures?
Thank you, Sashi. Yes, definitely overcrowding is bad, specifically now in COVID situation, because social distancing is going to be the new normal. In terms of how we can avoid school closures, yes, we can definitely. One, we are CAC is coming up with possible scenarios for school closures, but the board is not going to decide until November end or December first week, I presume. And so when
everybody else, okay, there we go.
Sorry?
You had, I don't know if it was just me or you had gone away for a couple of minutes, so that's okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was saying that overcrowding is definitely bad, and specifically now in COVID times, we need more social distancing. And CAC is coming up with possible scenarios for school closures, but there are a lot of other things that we need to consider before even we come up to school closure decision. And I think it's entirely board's decision, but the board is not going to decide until November end or possibly December 1st week. So when elected to the board, first thing I would focus on, as Mayor Scharf and Kitty Moore suggested, square footage model. We have this excellent opportunity to put forward that in March on the ballot, and we need to really spend our energies to get there. And as Mayor Scharf said, 2/3 majority is what we need. And I keep hearing that how can we achieve this when Measure O failed in the past? But we have to remember that Measure O failed in the past because of lack of urgency of awareness. There was no awareness among the parent community that if we don't make this pass, there is a possibility of school closure in 6 months. That was not communicated. So now, parents are more aware of this and they do know what's happening. So I'm positive if you take a survey right now, you would see that overwhelming support for a square footage for parcel tax, which is and the other reason that it would pass is because it would not tax the homeowners. It would actually protect them, and you would focus on the other resources. So the second thing that I would work on is discretionary item spending. So last board meeting, I saw a line item, for example, a line item where I think the money that was allocated was 4 to 5 million for bringing back the cut programs. So I think, we should revisit that and see what's the impact of that. The programs are not there, but they want to bring them back. Do a community polling and see if we can save that money with existing programs that we have. Those are some of the things that we can definitely work on to avoid school closure. And that would be my priority when I get onto the board.
Great.
Go ahead, Gopal.
Yeah, thanks, Sudha. But maybe let's put the other candidate, because we want to graduate from CUSD to really a community college, right? Let's quickly jump there, and we'll put the question to Govind. Govind, the question to you, which we got directly, is, as a taxpayers, like we are also just talked about CUSD. Similarly, we hear a lot of complaints about the Answer College, which is a community college, and instead of giving it to the community members first, and then possibly the neighboring cities, and possibly extending to the out of state in US, and then to international students, looks like the current allocation, the formula or the way in which it is happening today, is putting a lot of our community members, their kids, in wait list. They were really worried about it. They said, why I am on wait list, right? So once you become a board member, what do you plan to do as a board trustee? What kind of a policy you plan to enact that favorite the district students first, and then go to the next radius, and then go finally to international? You're on a mute, Govind.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, please go ahead.
So I think I think we need to. I would like to kind of divide the question. So the main thing to remember is in education in public institutions, one of the important things to remember is that when you put in some amount of money, it's the scalability of the public education system which gets you the kind of return on what investment you put in there. So from that point of view, I think that those are the reasons why many public institutions allow themselves to be, going beyond their boundaries. But there is a challenge here because it's a community college. So when it's a community college, a lot of people who are within the community district, they are actually paying for whatever is, the community college is demanding in terms of now, upgradation of facilities and all other things which are a part of the Measure G bond measure. So naturally, there's interest in the community to know that, okay, what are we getting in return for what we are investing in the system? And that is where I think I'm guessing that that is probably the reason why we have this particular question, because till now the kind of thinking that was going on is essentially that it's a community college and there are bound to be only so many people who can enroll from within the district. So let's keep the enrollment open because there's more capacity available in the college system. But when there comes a point where there's competition, especially for some plum courses like nursing and all that, that is where we have an issue. And the way currently it is structured, the way I understand it is structured, is that there are some preferential categories for course registration, also for people who are going after some of these programs. But it is not as if it is not it is not based on the idea that the community comes last. It's actually community comes under the general category. So from that point of view, they don't get a preferential treatment, but they are definitely, they are part of the system. So that is one thing where improvements can be made, but I think we have to look at what are the constraints in terms of the law, that is, the state law that basically regulates the community colleges, and whether it's possible for us to kind of say that, okay, community should be given some preferential treatment, and whether there'll be any challenges, in case if we come up with that kind of a policy. So at this point of time, I would say that, unless I'm privy to some of those discussions that are going on, it's difficult for me to kind of say exactly how this can be resolved. But I think it's something which we can look into and compare. Now, the other question that has come up is that in terms of international students, from whatever discussions I've had with the administrators and whatever I have learned from my own research, is that the international students actually pay the full, they pay the full amount. So in some sense, whatever budgetary shortfalls involved, and those budgetary shortfalls, to some extent, this mitigates it. So that's the reason I think De Anza is being on some kind of a little bit of overdrive, I would say, just to get the foreign students in, because it definitely has some budgetary challenges. And I think that's one of the reasons why, it's not only that. I think it's De Anza College, and Foothill and De Anza College system is probably one of the best systems in the country, and it's able to attract those kinds of talent, people from outside, because it provides a very it's a good system. Let's put it that way. So I think it's a two-part question. In the first part, I would say that whether a preference for a community can be brought in is a policy issue, which requires us to know the rules and regulations, which actually maybe do not allow us to do that within the state. But there's also the idea of whether the foreign students, whether they are taking away any of the plum courses. And that is definitely something I think which will be within the control of the board.
Thanks, Govind. Appreciate it. I think there are other questions on it. Let's
right. Yeah, there's just one question that came up. That is, how will you ensure that the bond measure money will be spent wisely, and what are your priorities for the bond measure?
The thing is, I think, first of all, one has to realize that I'll be just, if I am elected, I'll be one of the 5 people on the board. So, to that extent, that is the kind of influence I can carry. And the bond measure has certain things which have been written into the bond measure. And what we need is a prioritization of that, because at the time when the bond measure was being put together, from whatever documentation I have looked into, there was, so to say, a bigger list, which actually totaled to close to $1.5 billion. But somehow it got trimmed and it came down to $898 million. The trimming process is something which I'm not privy to, so I do not exactly know how it came through. But at this point of time, the $898 million has a certain informal kind of allocation, which I think is the thing which we actually have to go and rehash. And there will be, of course, different prioritization from different people on the board, and we probably need a wholesome discussion, not only at the board level but also among the whole community, to figure out what's the right thing to do here. I think the education should be the focus, because as they say, I mean, students are, so to say, the reason why a community college exists. And we have to ensure that the student success over next 30-35 years is something which we need to cater to, because this kind of bond money, as I said, is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So we have to make the system, build the system both in terms of facilities, as well as in terms of programs, as well as in terms of whatever equipment and things are required, so that we can have the community college stay on the top of the chart for next 30 years. So I think prioritization is definitely a thing that we need to actually go through very systematically. We should not kind of take very, I would say, we have to be very judicious about it. There are challenges like, for example, the Flint Center, which, though it was declared kind of not seismically safe in 2014, and it had other issues. So that, I don't know why it took 5 years for them to close down. That's something which I haven't been able to figure out. But it has happened. So the community is now saying that, okay, we need something in lieu of that. I mean, we need a method of community connect and, in terms of performing arts center. So that's one thing which, we can go and talk to the people and figure out, what are the priorities that they want in terms of community benefits. And in this case, what the community is looking forward to, because they are also, contributing towards this bond measure. That's one side. So I think overall, we have the education focus. I think that should be in my opinion, the top priority. And then there are other allocations of this particular money, including some people are talking about housing and all that. So in my opinion, it's not right for an education institute, like especially the community colleges, to either become a landlord or, to be involved in anything which is to do with real estate, because that's a different beast by itself. And I'm sure that, other board members will also share similar views. Thanks.
Thanks, Govind. Maybe let's take another question, which directly, I think, shared by the attendants here. This is go to Sudha. Sudha, the question is, this is about special education in the schools, right? So what is the current state of the special education, right, in the CUSD? And what is your plan specifically? What's there currently, what's the challenges within it, and what is your plan to improve that, especially with the curriculum being consistent and you get the real trained people to get it done. So because at this point of the situation, this is really needed, especially with the remote learning, all of them. So what would be your plan when you get to the board?
Is that for me?
No, it's just Sudha to start it. Maybe I think this could be applicable to you. So maybe we will start from CUSD and go. And if you think that you have something which you can for the community college students too, absolutely we can switch it. Absolutely.
I would like the question to be repeated after she answers it. So anyway, thank you.
Sure. So Sudha, you got my question correctly, right? It's about special education, current state, what challenges, what's your goal to improve wherever it is?
So I think Gopal, the question is rightly put, because, in distance learning environment today, it's harder for every student, and it becomes even more challenging for special ed students, because you do require that one-on-one attention from the teacher. I did speak to many parents, and I've gathered some input from them in terms of how special ed students are also being mixed in the regular classes, and about the attention aspect of the teacher. So I think there's really a good room for improvement over there, in my opinion. So when I get onto the board, I think that's where I would work on, get a consolidated input from the parents, because the feedback has been a bit consistent from whoever I talk to. So identify the areas that parents feel that they need more attention, and understand how we can allocate more resources from the budget as well, so that they get that more attention for them. I think there's nothing like replacing that attention aspect of it, and we need to work towards getting that. And the third thing I would work on is how we can like, I know the district is planning to start bringing in special ed students in cohorts, but we need to continuously monitor with surveys, with having the two-way dialogue communication, more responsive to parents' question and answering their concerns. I think that is where I would focus on. One, in understanding whatever input that we have, get that input, but divide it into particular areas as to where we can improve on, allocate more funds towards it, which comes back to prioritizing our funds and transparency in our budget. And third, how can we ensure a healthy safety environment for our special eds? And this I would work in collaboration with the rest of the resident-friendly board we have. Does that answer, Gopal?
Yeah, maybe if you don't mind, the last like maybe 30 seconds or something, it's kind of muffled your audio.
Oh, sorry, my internet has been a little unstable. So what I was saying is, first, when I get onto the board, prioritize, gather the input, put a community survey with the parents to understand and categorize the areas that we need to focus on for special ed students, and work on those areas. And if it needed more one-on-one teacher interaction, include or allocate more funds from our resources, which means, again, prioritizing it correctly amongst our budget. And third, how do we ensure that safe environment if social distancing is going to be the new normal? How do we make sure that we have all those allocated for special ed students? In short, more attention, more survey, more input from the parents to make this happen, and collaboratively work with our teachers.
Great, thank you. It's like more connecting with the community and the parents to get a much more feel about what's missing, and then you act on it. I think that's what I think.
Yeah.
You got as an individual. Okay.
Yeah, and as an overall, even to categorize the areas that we need to improve on. Right now, when I talk to the parents, I get different feedback, but there is no, and I searched on the CUSD website, they do have resources, but it's not, I didn't feel that it was prioritized or categorized into areas that they need today.
Thank you, appreciate it. Maybe Govind, I'll just switch on to that same one because you also volunteered. It looks like this question could be applicable to you. Then I think we will switch to some of the city-related questions to Mayor Scharf and Kitty. So Govind, the question was, it might have been the parent who were asked, might have been pointing towards the CUSD or Fremont Union High School District, doesn't matter where the kids are in this, but this will graduate, right? These kids will go to community college too. The question was, special education, the kids who need special education. So what are the current challenges you foresee, at least from your perspective, if it is in the community college, and what you would do when you become the board of trustee? And is there any plan you have it based on this? Maybe directly to CUSD, but I think I just want to push it to you as well. If there are any applicable to community college, what would be your stand on it?
I think it's a serious question, because the thing is that special ed students, they require a lot of attention. This was one of the issues actually I ran into while I was talking to some of the voters. I mean, I was handing out when I was handing out my flyers, one of the persons said, this is going to be one of the issues based on which I'm going to decide. So it was something which was like an eye-opening for me, because I was at that time, so to say, I was not aware that there is got to be a consideration, because to me, I think accessibility wise, most of the issues are resolved, but special ed requires something more than that. And unlike the school system, we don't have we do have something in terms of people getting assistance in terms of either taking notes or to in terms of doing some work, which is related to people who have some kind of handicap. So that I'm aware of, that for people who have some handicap, there are people who are provided, I don't exactly know the terminology, but there are people who get assistance and they have to sign up for that particular assistance to get that assistance. It is somewhat, I would say it's kind of a thing for which there must be some competition, but all said and done, there is a lot of accommodation already being made in De Anza College as a community college for people who require assistance for them in terms of note taking, in terms of some other activities. So that part has been addressed. To whether it's been addressed satisfactorily or not, something that we need to figure out. And the other thing that I would like to find out is that what are the other needs which the special ed students have identified, so that it's possible to address them. Because one of the things the community college does need to provide, if the student especially is in need of some kind of assistance, I think they should provide the necessary accommodation. So how do we go about it? Once I kind of, once I get a full picture, then I would like to look at the issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
So thanks, Govind. I think definitely there is a close partnership may be required from a CUSD to the community college level on this one, because the kids will want to have a smoother transition from every spot, right? So thank you. Thanks for your question. So let's move to Sashi. You can get back onto some other city-related questions.
Sure.
And for people, please, they can ask questions directly to Sashi or me, send the questions, or put it for everyone. So we're just taking a note on it, and then we will put queuing it, because there are a lot of questions. That's great. Thank you. But keep pouring in. Sashi, go ahead, please.
Yes. Okay, thanks, Gopal. So this question is to Mayor Scharf. So the question really is that, there was a lot of noise about Valco for the past couple of years. Can you quickly comment on what exactly is going there? What's going to happen? Is the lot just going to stay empty, or are they going to build something there? Just give us a perspective of what you know.
Well, a lot of these questions are actually for the property owner. So, the city has talked continually on and off with the property owner regarding the kind of project that they would like to build. I mean, as everyone knows, SB 35 was not their first choice. First, they had the hills at Valco and put a referendum on the ballot. That failed. Then they had Tier 2, and the residents collected signatures, and that got overturned. And then they said, well, SB 35 was kind of their almost a threat. Oh, if you don't approve Tier 2, we're going to do SB 35. So now the lawsuits are settled. If they wish to build SB 35, they are free to do so. However, talking to developers, including one developer today, there is a big issue moving forward regarding both commercial office space and rental housing. And this was an issue even before COVID-19. Now it's even more of an issue. There's a huge amount of Class A commercial office space, some under construction, some approved. In Santa Clara, you have the Related project with 5.7 million square feet and only 1,680 housing units. This is an enormous housing deficit, much more of a deficit than either the SB 35 or Tier 2. You've got the Google project in San Jose, 7.3 million square feet of office and 5,900 housing unit. Again, a surplus of a deficit of tens of thousands of housing units. But what's not clear is that there's a market for either all the housing or all the commercial space. So, while the property owner is free to build SB 35, and we would be thrilled to get those 1,201 below market rate units, even though they're all tiny units, not suitable for families, we would still need them. If they want to build that, they're free to do so. I would hope that they would come back to the city and work with us to find a project that, we would all be more comfortable with and would like better. We can engage all the stakeholders. We can partner, and there's a lot of potential opportunities that, for that very large parcel. So I think we'd all like to see, something nice there. I've gotten all sorts of suggestions, why don't we turn it into a big park? Well, I'd like that too, but I don't think that is actually going to happen. But in talking to property owners today, the kind of housing that's really in demand is small lot single family homes. And he called it detached townhomes, because people want to own things for financial security. They may not want a big yard, but with the health issues regarding, COVID and high density, people want more space and they want separated space. So I would love to see a project come forward with that kind of housing and with retail, and they can have some office too if that's what they want, if there's a market for it. So I wish I had an easy answer for Valco. It's been the question I've been asked probably the most in my whole life is what's happening with Valco. And I would just love a good answer to it. And I hope that, I'll probably be long gone by the time any project is done, but I'm just hopeful we can get a good project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Scharf. The next question is obviously to Kitty Moore. One of the things that seems to come up whenever, for a lot of candidates who have been remotely connected to Better Cupertino, is that you are a NIMBY. So tell us what you think about, what is your stance on development? Tell us a little bit about that.
Interesting. Okay, so my background is that I'm a civil engineer. My background's in land development. I've worked on projects that are over 300 acres, developing the entire area. So I'm not against growth. I'm against growth which isn't sensible and rational, and growth that causes damaging environmental impacts which cannot be mitigated. In Cupertino, people have wanted to have a downtown for a really long time. I think that there was a lot of hope in Main Street that they would achieve that. I think it could have been altered a little bit to integrate the office component with more retail on the ground floor, and some of the other areas by the apartments could have had more ground floor interaction area. And as we move into the heart of the city, that's going to be coming back to be looked at next year. We need to really think about how we're going to get people out into the retail areas, which I hope are coming, so that there's a place, if you're biking along those new protected lanes, that there's a place for you to go, and that it helps the surrounding retail so that you don't have a little island of retail that, somebody might go to one little spot and then go somewhere else, but if there's nothing else around it, they're not attracted to stay very long. That retail tends to close up and fail. And we've seen some of these same businesses, as you're heading between Danza and Miller on Stevens Creek Boulevard. Some of these businesses are just there for a little bit of time. And as we move into the future of that area, we've got to get much more interactive ground floor businesses to get people to want to stay in the area. The other part of town, which people are looking at, which I mentioned earlier, is the Bub Road area, which we can look into that and see if there's a way to get something in that part of town that's got restaurants and some retail. And what people want is something like Los Gatos and Saratoga. And I think there are some areas where that could be carved out and could succeed, but it would probably, in Cupertino, because it's so expensive, you were talking $70, $80 per square foot in Southern California in some areas, but around here, we're looking at $200 to $300 per square foot. It costs so much more to build here that you're going to have to go taller, and we're going to have to accept that there's going to be certain areas where things are going to have to be taller for the developer to make the project viable for themselves. And I'm glad I didn't have to take the Valco question.
Thank you.
All right. I'll turn it over to Gopal. He has a question.
Thanks, Sashi. Yeah, so this question, going back to, I think, Sudha, and obviously, I think Govind, it's also will connect with you. I think glad that parents are asking the questions specifically on this one. So this is about, we talked about social distancing, right, at the current situation. But without even this current pandemic, typically we are academic oriented. And so what happens is that in the school system, the children's are like kind of, mainly the filter and the parameters are based on academic success. So what you will do differently when you come on board, right? So I'll start with you, and then I'll go to Govind, is that to ensure that children are safe, right? And they really healthy and they're feeling happy about it. And then once they become a teen, yes, they will take it into that level of just socializing it. How will you encourage and what kind of environment changes you will bring in so that the children are growing in such an environment, not with academic pressure cooker situation? What you would do differently?
Thank you, Gopal. Just let me know if my voice is breaking because I see
it is now.
Is unstable. Just let you know.
It is now.
It is unstable?
It is
okay.
not stable. Yeah.
Can you have Govind go first then? Maybe I'll just move a little bit so that my internet gets stable.
Just to go and ask your husband to shut off the Wi-Fi, and then you can just take all the power. So that would be the best way. So let's maybe go with, let's start with you in general. It's especially with the teens, and then we can go back to the other side. And what is that? Again, this may not be a little bit different. Academic pressure may not be as much in the schools compared to the community college, but still the problem exists. What you would do when you get on a board, something different, which will enable the students coming in, which will have a socializing, laughing, and then just wanted to have a fun in learning. What is your fun and learn? Maybe you are on mute, Govind. Maybe you have a good. Yeah.
So
go ahead.
can you? Okay. So I think one thing we need to realize, we are talking about higher education. So higher education requires people to focus a lot. I mean, it doesn't come easy. It's and the other thing is, school is a very supportive system. We definitely the K-12 system and the K-14 system, there is a jump. So what I've observed, based on not only my kids but all the people who are around me and talking to many families, is that in our system, the 3rd grade, the 7th grade, the 10th grade, and then the college, these are really something like the game changer. Until 3rd grade, people are treated in a certain way. From 3rd grade onwards, they are treated differently. When a person joins as a pixie in mid school, 7th grade makes a lot of difference, because by 7th grade they say, oh, you have to be prepared for high school. When you get into 10th grade, you have to be prepared for the college, and then you are in the college. So when you are in the college, you have to really know that you are learning to be able to be successful, either to go as a transfer student to a higher education learning, which is more competitive, or you are learning a trade, which you have to learn as per the requirements. So I think learning part of it is something where the fun aspect can be brought in only based on the personality of the professor. But learning is it's a hard thing. You have to invest your time, and that I think there's absolutely nothing that can be kind of made easier there. But fun part is something which the professors can bring in, and it's all dependent on the personality. I think interaction is what we are talking about. Interaction wise, the current environment in terms of online education does not provide so much interaction among the students. And I think to that, based on that, my reading was that actually we should have a tutoring network. We should have a network outside so that it is possible for people to interact. And interactive learning by itself will help the people kind of feel more comfortable, pursuing this higher education goal. And I think that is where we need to go. Fun is something, it's all personality based. If you have your own group, definitely you tend to have your own kind of fun factor. So I'll stop with that.
Okay, thank you, Govind. I think you put in there for professors and others to help on the environment. But I think if you really inject and imbibe and provide those environment from school, CUSD, if you
So can I add one thing, Gopal? So there are events which take place at the community college where people are brought together, and at those events we can make them little more frequent so that people feel that they are part of the society, in terms of the social interaction. So it starts with the college day and all that kind of stuff. So that's another factor. Sorry.
Okay, no, thank you. So with that, I think I'm switching to Sudha. I'm sure that you are in a good environment where you can talk and we can listen to you.
Yeah, I moved my rooms. Let me know if it's good.
This comes out nicely, beautifully, and the backdrop is also nice, cool. So,
thank you.
So the question again back to the environment at a matured level, the community college can give all of them, but I think it has to start from the kindergarten level kind of, right, and to move it. So what's your stance and what you would do differently to provide such a fun, loving environment for the kids, not putting on academic pressure? What's your thing when you do differently than currently what's being done?
Yeah, so I think definitely providing a stress-free environment is very, very important. And why I emphasize that, because as I said, I've been running a dance school from past 15 years. So I've had the opportunity to talk to elementary kids, high school kids, and middle school kids. And when I talk to them, when I engage with them, I hear so many incidents, and it's wonderful to know what they are thinking. And sometimes you get amazed as to the ideas that they bring in, but we have to provide that opportunities for them to, explore that in their school system. And as a board member, if I can give that opportunity, I think I'm successful right there. We do have counselors in place. I think it has to be a collaborative event or a collaborative effort from both the teachers and from the parents. Right now, as much as we have academics, but it's also parents who are putting a lot more pressure on the kids. They have to be more aware of the incidents that are happening right now in several high schools. We need to have, maybe the teachers can start incorporating that in their lesson plans as to how the kids can start spending more time with the family, or emphasizing the importance of having one meal together as a family. That kind of gives a lot more stress-free environment for the kids to have that feeling that, my parents are there with me, my teachers are there to look out for me. That sort of confidence in you or support system brings you that, you feel just there that, I'm there here and I can achieve whatever I want. There are other programs that, personally I feel would be very, very valuable for kids. One is the buddy system, which I'm already doing outside of the school system, where I'm connecting an elementary kid with a middle schooler, just having that interaction, one-on-one interaction, weekly one call, understanding that is really going great. We are, right now, YFC is doing it. I have about 100 students who are part of the program, and I see a really, really good feedback from them. Second is, as Govind said, fun activities, right? So that really, really makes that environment stress-free, like sports day, like more drama activities, so that they can, be part of this and make the entire learning experience a fun one. And yeah, those are some of the things. And there are meditation programs that we can make it as part of the school that will provide you a wholesome environment for the kids to make it stress-free and make it fun at the same time too.
Great, thank you. I think what I hear is that you will make this as one of the top priority of bringing this as part of the curriculum and being imbibed into the system, not just as a side kind of optional, but you will bring it internally. Great, thank you. So thank you for you and Govind addressing the school system, but this is not just a school, even at a city level. So I would like to switch that to, maybe I'll ask Kitty, who is a mom of 2 teens, and I'm sure that she has gone through a lot of these challenges and stuff, and she has seen it. So Kitty, can we have your thoughts on these kind of socializing it, and how do we really bring those energy fun from those kids? Can you please share anything?
Okay, so, well, I need to correct you. My kids are 23.
Yeah, not teens anymore. I'm sorry. I think you started with 2 teens. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So they're 23 and 26, and they live here. In fact, I had to get the mute going because one cranked up the bagpipes in the other room. And if you've been in a house with a bagpipe player, I feel sorry for you.
No, it's a fun. Somebody is
Yeah.
having fun. That's perfectly fine. That's
absolutely.
exactly.
It's loud though. Okay, so the city has looked into and has plans for the magical bridge type playground to be a Jolly Man, and which you, Gopal, clearly know about. And so that's for one of the questions was regarding inclusiveness. I was thinking about that. We also have some art installations, murals, which the Fine Arts Commission has been working on. And in fact, they were thinking about adding another mural, which would be along the 280 where it's getting all graffitied, to see if that would maybe cut down on the graffiti and put something, more beautiful there. So this question also had to deal with safety. So with regards to that, with the children, that would be issues with the protected bike lanes and pathways for kids to get to school when they finally get back. And then one of the things that I had been asking for is that we're doing improvements in all of the parks, was to have the new playground equipment have inclusive elements, just like the Magical Bridge Playground. So it's not just in one place over at Jolly Man, but as we improve all of our parks, that each one of them will have some inclusive elements to it. Now, with regards to the social interaction with the teens, the city had just opened up what they call Open Study Hall, and I'd like to hear how that is doing. And that's at Portal Park, and it's 2 days a week for the students to get out and have some interaction. I feel really badly for the students right now, because this is unlike anything I've ever seen, because they're, I spoke to one student who had not met any of his classmates. He's brand new in high school. And I think that's really very, very difficult, because the kids need to be around one another, and for social development, it's really important. I was thinking that the Teen Commission could probably brainstorm a series of activities that they could do. One thing I was thinking about personally is they could do teen hikes at Rancho. The paths are very wide. If you had an adult leader, ensure that the kids are, practicing good social distancing, that could help. Our parades, we've been doing bike parades. If the students could get together and go biking. Right now, the traffic is pretty light. That would be another way that they could go out. And then there is, other issues with inclusivity. I know that we've just recently approved the rainbow crosswalk. I think that there's things that we can do to help youngsters as they're developing into adults, so that they feel more included. And for full disclosure, I do have a gay brother, and he came out when he was 35. So he had a very strict Catholic upbringing, where it was not something okay. So for inclusivity, I think it's really important to make youngsters feel welcome, and that they're not different and excluded. And there might be some things that the Teen Commission would like to suggest with regards to that issue. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Kitty. That was quite a bit. I mean, there were quite a few ideas that came out of all of you. The pandemic is really on top of everybody's head. And along with the pandemic, the other issue that's kind of catching all of our attention is the climate. There were the California fires, and right after the California fires this morning, I was reading that there's the Colorado fires, and it's pretty much in the same state as this. So the question that is coming, and this was addressed to Steve. Steve, can you talk to us about what Cupertino can do from its perspective as a city in order for it to handle or do its part for climate change?
So I'm so glad you asked this question. On October 8th, Cupertino received from the California League of Cities the Platinum Award for Sustainability. It's called the Platinum Level Beacon Vanguard Award. And 4 cities in the state have ever received this level. And for 2020, we were the only one. So we had a 24% community greenhouse gas reduction. That's for the residents, 23% for the city agency, and 22% energy savings. So this is a real accomplishment. Unfortunately, we did so well, it's going to be hard in the future to get those kind of percentages moving forward. So I think we also have to look at the climate change impact of COVID-19. And if you look at what the Metropolitan Transportation Commission did, this is the regional organization, now it's merging with ABAG. Last week, they came out with the idea of requiring companies with 25 or more employees to have them work from home 60% of the time. So this would be a huge decrease in commuting. Now, what's interesting is Oakland, the Oakland mayor, Libby Schaaf, was all on board with this. She thought it was good. But Mayor Sam Liccardo in San Jose and Mayor London Breed in San Francisco thought it was a terrible idea, because when you reduce the need for people to go to the office, you need less office space. When there's less people in your city, there's less people going to restaurants. So, you know, their idea, well, it's not a viable idea, in my opinion, is no, we don't want to have people remote working. What we want to do is build high density housing and everybody will take the bus to work. Now, somebody was joking, I don't know how much of a joke it really is. It was 98% of Bay Area residents think that their next door neighbor should take a bus to work. It's not happening. I mean, we are going to transition to electric cars, as the governor has promoted. We now have electric bicycles, which have come way down in price, and they're making commutes around the valley more practical. I mean, you can easily do a commute to work of 10 miles on an electric bike without breaking a sweat. And it doesn't have to be every day. To reduce greenhouse gases, we just need to get in the habit of doing this when we can. And it's not deprivation to save energy. Personally, out my backyard, I have a clothesline. And yes, it's easier to throw the clothes in the dryer. But it's not that much trouble to put them on the clothesline either. I hang them up when they come out, and you know, when they're dry, they're all on the hangers, and it's not that hard. So I think we can do a lot. We have a great reach code, one of the best in the regions, but we can do more for new buildings and remodels of houses. We can encourage people to make their house much more energy efficient. I think it's called, I can't remember. One resident constantly talks to me about this, about making your house so insulated that your energy use is just way down. And of course, solar panels are very popular in Cupertino. I look around, my one neighbor has them for electricity. I have them. The other neighbor has hot water heat. It's kind of odd. Hot water heating with solar has not become popular, even though it's quite inexpensive and saves a lot of natural gas. We're looking at banning gasoline-powered leaf blowers, not just for greenhouse gas, but because of the noise. And I think it's really important to realize the changes brought on by COVID-19, they're long-term changes. People keep saying, oh, there'll be a vaccine, we'll all go back to the way things were. But no, it's not. You can already see this exodus of workers from the Bay Area to lower cost places where they can buy a single family home where it's affordable, because, you know, it is, you know, all the experts agree it is safer to be in low density housing and not all crowded together. So we've done great in Cupertino, where we have such a great reputation, and it makes me upset when I see some people trying to diss Cupertino and, you know, say, oh, our city is a terrible reputation in the region and the state. It's not true. We have a great reputation and we need to keep building on it. Thank you.
Great.
I'll turn it over to Gopal.
Thanks, Shashi. Thanks, Mayor Scharf. That's good to know. I think a lot of things we hear about it, but I think the reality is like things were doing good. I think the same person, whoever you were mentioning, I spoke to them earlier on it, and they talked about says negative energy. I said, no, I want to have a positive energy. But no, the person said, no, when I say negative energy means there is no energy consumption, rather you are saving it. I said, oh, that's awesome. So look, like we do have people and there are mechanisms through which, and it can be, I heard it through the Sustainability Commission, that how best we can bring in, save more energy. That's an awesome one. So that's great. Thank you. Now let's switch back. I think this is the talk of the town overall for the last, maybe, I don't know, maybe 2 months. Sudha, the question to you, and possibly, I think, not exactly, but Govind, you will also have a follow-up question on it. I just want to make sure that you are ready for it. So Sudha, the question is, you talked about it, given the current situation and all the other things going on, how we will bring more social interactions and then special ed, and then drama, whatever. So we said we will include that in the curriculum. But today, CUSD is already fighting on the budget deficit. So school closures, all of them. Among all of these things, how you will, as a board member, you will put your foot down, sitting there in the board, saying that this is important, and how do you inject that program into the curriculum regularly, assuming that it will make additional budgets, right? Because already budget is deficient. So what's your approach? I know that's a good vision, but what's your stand on getting that into the curriculum?
I totally agree with you because, I've been a parent in CUSD for so long, and whenever the question comes up about introducing a new program, the only answer that we get is we don't have money for this. So we need to really solve this and make our system a budget-free system, and for that we need to have long-term solution. And I come back to again proposing the square footage for parcel tax. We have an excellent opportunity to do that in March, and we need to really rally the support of the community for that. And as a board member, I would start, when elected to the board, I think I would start focusing on that aspect so that we get that big money into our budget so that we can prioritize the programs that we want to. That comes back to again, optimizing our administrative cost, or identifying redundancies in our budget and prioritizing discretionary spending that we have. A combination of a long-term solution and a short-term solution should help us with our budget problem. Once that problem is solved, then start working on the programs that I just talked about, addressing the social aspect and how we can make the learning stress-free and introduce more fun activities.
Okay, great, thank you. Because the action has to be shown, right? The momentum has to go until finally it's getting done. Because that's what I think the parents' concern on the chat they're asking about is, I think that's mainly this. Okay, yes, we want to, you're ready to do it, but I see the other side of it, how you do it. Thanks for answering it.
So I just want to add to that. I thought I could talk about it at the end, but I think this is an excellent opportunity for me to plug in. So, the budget problem, yes, we need square footage model too. And how will I get that done, right? So where is my experience coming in? And that comes in because for that to happen, you need to see, or you need to rally for that and get community support and trust. And, I have founded grassroots programs like citizen focus groups. So somewhere, I have to connect with the parent community to rally, and my experience in leading technical conferences, bringing in 1,500 women, negotiating with them, that all comes into the picture. And, that's my strong administrative experience. And I have the experience of running a startup, which means spending that dollar in a constrained environment. So that would help me prioritize the funding as well.
Thank you. I think you put it last. I think if I could summarize it, this is you're talking about the power of community, how you really plug that one into make things on it. Awesome. Thank you, Sudha. So let's get to Govind. This seems to be, I think you kind of addressed in the initially, but this seems to be a very simple question, which is whenever high schools from here, all of the high school students, when they try to register into the answer, they are given lowest priority, either be it the courses or getting into the teachers. So what you would do, the FHDA high school students have a higher priority in registering the courses in the DANSA or the Futul Community College, because that's the one they want to do. And if you are going to support, if you are going to sit there in the board and supporting the community first, then that's a one. What you would do differently to make sure that the high school students get a priority? You kind of partly answered originally, but there's a straight, simple question from a parent. What you would do from a low priority to high priority?
That's a very challenging question in one way, because I think what we need to know is we have to know exactly how the system works currently. So in the system, there is a certain scheme for course registration, which is actually constrained by the state rules. So in terms of state rules, there are some priorities which are for EOSC, for veterans, and for athletes and all that. So they get the first preference. And then, of course, then comes the general category. So in the general category, there's nothing like a preferential treatment for FHSD as such. And what we need to understand is that this is going to be a hard thing to kind of solve, because the rules which are currently there are something which are dictated by, I think, the way the community college system itself has been kind of designed. So this is something where I think the board needs to deliberate and find out, because transfer students definitely make up for a large percentage right now. And, they also bring a lot of what is called the, so to say, the wow factor to the ANZA federal system. Because it's very successful as a transfer student, location. So I think what we need to do is we need to kind of see whether it's possible to renegotiate some of these rules to provide some preferential treatment. I don't think it happens. It can be done so easily, because even within the current enrollment system, the thing is that when a person has declared, just like how you do in the in the college system, you declare a major and things like that. Here, when you're already registered in the course, then if you have worked out a certain path in terms of what you need to do with the counselor, that is when you actually get some level of priority. So if that is the way it is being done, for a high school student to be able to introduce into that particular kind of system, they will have to work out the goals with the high school system. So I think the best thing is for them, there's a program available right now for DANZA as well as, I guess, FURIL, where you can get out of the high school and you can be a part of the DANZA system itself. And if they do that, they will get that particular preferential treatment.
Great. Thanks, Govind. I think the parent who asked, I'm sure that if they have more questions, they can directly connect with you to understand that particular piece. So great. Thank you. Sashi, over to you.
Thanks. I had a little problem with my system here for a second. So just give me a minute while I find something here. Yeah, there we go. So the question that came up was that this is both to Steve and I guess, I don't know if Kitty wants to comment on this. This is more to Steve, but we'll let Kitty decide after this one. Mayor Scharf, what is happening in Oaks? Quite a few places are closing there already, and this was before COVID. So can you comment on it and what's going on there?
Okay, so when the current owner bought the property, they paid a lot more for it than the previous owner. So the property was reassessed at the market value. And since many of the tenants have what are called triple net leases, the property owner can pass on their increased costs. So property taxes, maintenance, whatever. Now they don't have to do that. The reality is you're trying to charge whatever the market will bear, so you keep your tenants. But in this case, apparently the property owner did not want the tenants to stay, even though the tenants wanted very much to stay. I mean, I talked to the owner of Coffee Society the last day it was open, and they were just furious because there was really no reason that it needed to close at that time. There's no COVID, there's nothing, there was no new tenant on, chomping at the bit to go in there. but you know, it is the property owner, and if they want the tenant out, all they have to do is raise the rent to an unsustainable amount. Now, as most people know, the city council did approve on a 5-0 vote. I believe it was 5-0. I can't remember, the new Oaks project. Now this, you know, this shows where some of our processes are broken. The GPA approval process, where first the property owner applies for permission to get a GPA, and to do so, they try to offer all sorts of inducements to the city to grant it. It's really the wrong way to do city planning. That didn't work. They tried twice. They were rejected twice. They tried to do a ballot measure and they couldn't collect the signatures. So finally, they gave up and they came back with a project that is compliant with our general plan. They did take advantage of state housing laws in order to waive some requirements in terms of height and setback and density. And, you know, we went along, we have no choice. And we came out with a really good project. It doesn't worsen our jobs housing balance. It actually improves it because there's no office space. It's not nearly as dense as what they had proposed. It's not as tall. And I think it was the best project we could get. And I'm hopeful that when the recession is over and you know they can get all the financing necessary to actually build this, and we can have a new project there. Because even before I lived here, I worked in Cupertino. I loved the Oaks, the clean, well-lighted place for books, and the theaters, and of course Hobies. And it's really sad to see it in its current state. Oh, and the $2 movies, of course. So stay tuned. And I think, you know, the property owner said they are ready to build as soon as it's approved. So, you know, we will hold them at their word. One thing I remember one person saying, oh, the city holds back issuing permits. No, we don't do that. If someone submits the proper application for a permit, the permit is granted and they're ready to go. Now, we've approved a lot of projects that haven't been built. The Hamptons, 600 more units, not built. The Marina Foods, 200 units, not built. It's really hard for a profitable development right now, even more now with COVID, but with construction costs and the call earlier today, they were saying lumber costs have just skyrocketed. And a lot of developers are saying, well, we're going to wait until things come down. With the recession, labor should come down and lumber should come down, and then we'll build. So stay tuned. We'll see. Thank you.
Very much. Go ahead, Gopal.
Yeah, I have a quick question to Mayor Scharf. This is a little different. There are many things are happening, robberies and vandalism recently in the city. Is there any special action you plan to take now? It may not be, okay, when you get re-elected, but even now, people wanted to know what's going on and how the safety is being questioned and what is the action currently being taken and how will you enhance it further once you get on the council again? So
I think it's important to distinguish. So burglaries are way down. Car break-ins are about even, but I have heard about all these robberies where someone from out of town comes in and they stalk someone and they steal their jewelry. They look for people wearing expensive jewelry, and some people do walk around with that and they're able to snatch it. We just had a purse snatching at Sprouts last week, and you know, I think a lot of it's education. You know, it should be obvious to most people that you don't leave your purse in your shopping cart while you go off and pick food up, not even for a second, because people will go into a market and just wait for the opportunity to do something. I think we can have more education from our law enforcement, from our sheriff's office. Maybe a year ago, I went to a meeting with the deputies. They were doing a big stakeout for car break-ins, and they do catch them. It's very hard to catch. They won't do a high-speed chase because it's too dangerous. But the other issue is, even when they catch someone doing a car break-in and they get arrested, they get booked into jail, it's not a high enough level crime where you would send someone to prison for breaking into a car. So there's like this cycle of people getting out and repeating and repeating. And I know part of it was due, I think it was Prop 47, I can't remember, that lowered the penalties for certain crimes. Now that's not the whole problem. If we decide to put lower level criminals in prison, then we better have a bond measure to build more prisons, because there's not going to be enough space. We're already under orders from the federal government to reduce the prison population. I don't know how a tax to build more prisons would go over. It's, I want to build more universities, not more prisons, personally. So I guess the short answer is we need to educate our residents to take steps to prevent these kinds of robberies. And there are definite concrete steps we can take. Just educating them to not leave valuables in their car would go such a long way. Now, there's another issue that's come up recently. It's the theft of catalytic converters. And the Priuses are especially prone to this because their converters have a lot of the precious metal in them. And these people come into town with a hydraulic jack, they jack up the car, they use a battery-powered angle grinder. In 2 minutes, they can take out a catalytic converter. And a Prius, it costs $2,000 or $3,000 to replace it. And this is another education thing we have to do. You got to put in these theft protection devices because the chances of getting hit are high. Education and vigilance, and hopefully we can reduce this. And I think, the other thing is getting to the root cause of this whole thing, and it's inequity in economic opportunity. And that's the long-term goal, to have people not decide that their profession is to be a robber or a burglar. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Scharf. And Sashi, maybe you can pick it up. I think a lot of the couple of questions are related to city side. I just want to make sure that you ask the question. And
sure.
Yeah.
I actually dropped the ball. I told Kitty I would let her comment on it if she chooses to, and then I just let it go to you, because that question on security has been there for a little bit. I want to make sure we don't miss asking that question.
Please.
We can come back to the city. So Kitty, the floor is yours. Please tell us what you think about Oaks or Westport.
Okay. Well, with regards to the crime issue that we have, I think the city can help with people that want to do DIY work, putting video cameras up at their houses. That could be something from the Safety Commission. The police forums that we had were very good and well attended. We can continue having more of those so that people feel comfortable with our law enforcement. I know we've been out doing our campaigning at Cali Mill Plaza, and I've known Deputy Harper for a few years now because of issues which always seem to happen when we're out, and so it's good to be on a first name basis. Neighborhood watch groups. I think we need to have more outreach about that, educating the community for how they can get those going and make those really effective. And we need to just get to know who our neighbors are, if there's something that we can do in light of the pandemic, but that we can get people out on the street saying hello. At this point, we're recognizing people by their masks and their sunglasses. Don't really know what their faces look like. Going back to Westport, the Oaks. Sure.
Sorry to interrupt, but just the fact that you mentioned security, we had, the neighborhood watch is an excellent point that you brought up. A lot of our neighborhoods don't seem to have it, and it was quite an education when we had the coordinator for that come out to our neighborhood. And the question that comes up is, I guess it's a comment more than a question, that, if we could put cameras at street corners as opposed to looking at the privacy of the, people's cameras, I think that may be a different way to handle things. Do you think that'll work?
That's a great question for the TIC Commission, because they seem to be working towards that with their 5G rollout. So that might be in the works. I think Mayor Scharf might have some more on that, but I want to move over to Westport, okay, because that project I end up being told that I didn't want the project, and that's not true. So the project came to the Planning Commission in its first iteration. It had senior below market rate units in 2 buildings, and then they decided, and we approved it. And we recommended it for approval, I should say. And then they decided to cluster them all in 1 building to qualify for low income housing tax credits. And under the density bonus law, you have waivers and concessions, and a concession is something that they want to do to reduce an objective standard, which in this case would be you need to disperse units. If you reduce an objective standard and it's for a financial reason, that is called a concession. And so they said it was a waiver, and I actually asked the attorney who was helping, because the staff recognized this also as being something that would be a concession. Why didn't they turn in the financial documents? She said to me, why don't you ask the applicant? I did. We had a little back and forth, and we ended up recommending it for denial. But I told them, you need to bring in the financial documentation and request for this to be a concession, and just walk it to, city council, which is exactly what happened. So what we got in the final project, and I'll make another plug for my website, kittyforcupertino.org. There's a whole thing on the Westport project, and I have the Vice Mayor's presentation showing how the project was originally and all the changes, including the jobs to housing balance that they ended up with, which is very good in the end. So you've got 267 senior units. You've got 48 of those are below market rate units for seniors up to, and you've got 27 memory care units. Those ones don't have kitchens, so they don't count as in the unit count. So it's actually 294 units. 27 of those are from memory care units. And then you have the 88 market rate for sale townhouses and row houses on the west side. And they did use a housing law, the density bonus law, for the project, which is how it ended up so tall on the east side over by Mary Avenue, and then it steps down over towards the 85. So it's pretty exciting that we got those, but I just wanted to clarify that I was not against the project, but if we're following the law, they have to meet the requirements, and that's why we had to recommend it for denial.
Great. Sashi, can I do have a next set of questions. Again, this is to Mayor Scharf and Kitty as well. So this is I think we are in the last couple of questions, Sashi, if you don't mind. I think we have last 2 questions, I believe, right, before we wrap up. Just want to double check with you the timing.
Yeah, there's 2 questions maybe. There's one that I also see that came to Steve and Kitty, but I think there's one last question that might go to Sudha and Govind. So let's see how we go with time. Okay, yeah, I got those. So let me ask this last but one question to the panel, and especially this is to Mayor Scharf as well as to Kitty. But I think let me start with the current mayor. So we constantly hear that the current council is a no growth council. That's the kind of things we hear it. But I know similarly, the previous one, we talked about on the environment side, and you all said, no, that's not right, and you were given a lot of good points. So can you address what are the things you approved sitting in there in the council, being as a mayor or other council member, so that you can tell the audience and the citizens here that it's true or not true?
Well, of course, I would contend that it's not true. So I'm looking back my time on the council. One thing we approved when the veranda project came in, that's the 100% below affordable housing project. The original plans were for 11 housing units and ground floor retail. because at the time we had a community development director that was very much into the whole mixed use thing. However, if you look around Cupertino at the mixed use projects that have been built, it's been very, very hard to actually rent out that retail because there's not enough housing to really drive the retail. So we said, okay, instead of 11 units and retail, let's just build more units and not have the ground floor. So we expanded that to 19. These are desperately needed low-income units. Of course, we approved Westport. Prior councils before me did the RENA allocation, which, you know, had 200 units to Marina, I believe 200 to the Oaks, 389 to Valco, and 600 to the Hamptons. So we far exceeded our RENA. It was 1064, we went to 1400, but in addition to that, a lot of other housing was also entitled and approved. Now, of course, as everyone knows, the city doesn't build housing. The developers build housing. We have very little or nothing to force them to build their approved projects. Now, we did deny one project that was out by Linda Vista Park. This was a luxury home development. If I recall correctly, it was, I believe, 40 homes. Now, with the ADUs that are allowed under the current law, that could have went to 120. We thought it was too many units for that piece of land, and there were other issues. It didn't meet our affordable housing requirements for inclusionary housing and same size units and same quality. So that one we did reject. Now, along with the city manager, we have constantly been talking to developers saying, what will it take for you to build your approved project? Because, you know, we want them to take out the building permits and actually build. And we get the same answer over and over again. It's, you know, we look at, does the project pencil out? You know, what will the rents be? What will the construction costs be? And we are not moving forward at this time. And this is not just Cupertino, it's throughout the region. There's a lot of projects that they're on hold for various reasons. We'll see when COVID is over, we'll see what the office and housing situation is. I know we're losing a lot of people in rental housing, and rents are coming way down. And so, you know, we are not a no growth council. You know, personally, I think this is, you know, of course I'm biased. I think it's one of the best councils we've had in a long time. We've approved parkland. We got some good developments through. Our sustainability is great. And you know, we all live in houses built by developers, and we can do great sustainable growth. And I'm all in favor of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Scharf. So just to follow up on the same thing to Kitty. Kitty, that you've been sitting there in the Planning Commission as now as a chairperson of it. A lot of these projects come to the table of the Planning Commission. And then you might have seen this one really in action. So can you count on the same thing, no growth council, whatever the things people are thinking about, can you please share your point of view?
Okay, so thank you, Gopal. So like I began, my background is in land development, which is pro-growth. That's what you do. Buildings are torn down, new things are put up. And I'm for sensible growth so that the people are able to move around, get to the grocery store, have clean air, clean water, and not harm the environment. So what Cupertino has approved is we have the library expansion approval. You purchase new park to be built, new parkland for Lawrence Mitty. You have the veranda, which was previously, that's the senior affordable housing and housing for the previously unhoused. You have 2 first-class hotels approved. In fact, I was involved in both of those. Recommendation for approval, the Kimco Hotel right across from Apple, and then the very attractive Goodyear Hotel project, which is on De Anza. It's going to have a top deck, open bar area, which will have views of the whole valley. It'll be awesome when that is opened. let's see. Some of the less interesting things that we've done is Mayor Scharf mentioned the reach codes. It's not super exciting, but it's going to ensure that everything is that we're building in the future we're going all electric essentially, and that's going to help with the environment and lower greenhouse gases. One thing that hasn't been mentioned tonight is Lehigh, and I just want to throw that in there so that people understand that they are going to be putting out a notice of preparation. They're trying to do a reclamation plan, which will have some expansion, and they're trying to fill in a very large pit that they have. So I know that we've all seen the scar increasing in size over the years. Well, that pit will take them 30 years to fill, and it will take 600 truck trips per day in order to complete that project. And they want to expand 30 acres of the limestone quarrying that they're doing there. So that's something the city really needs to keep on top of to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of the residents, which is the city's duty. Some other things we have going on, we've secured some SR 85 improvements from Measure B for bus lanes. And the 280 Wolf Road interchange improvement selection occurred. It's not going to be the double diamond. I think that's too bad. I would have loved to have seen that new design type. At McClellan Ranch Community Garden upgrade is in process. And I know there's some residents who are interested in helping West Valley Community Services by seeing if they can expand the community garden, get it an area fenced in so that they can be growing local produce for the residents who are in need of food that are using West Valley Community Services for that. And Mayor Scharf already mentioned the Westport development, and the city did stop going back to Lehigh, the illegal road use that was going on there. So they've actually, as a group, it's been a really great team together. And I know some people complain that the city council stays up very late at night. And from my perspective, that's like complaining that somebody's working hard. So that's not something I would do. I would encourage them and, applaud their efforts. They've done a super, super job. And I don't know that people know how much they've done behind the scenes in order to keep the city moving forward.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Katie. And I think if Mayor Scharf, I just want to close this from my end, and I'll hand it over to Shashi for wrapping it up. But I think thanks for all your inputs. Looks like the list is really, really getting longer. And Mayor Scharf himself said, okay, we have done so much, but you're going to keep the council really busy. And please keep them busy until 2 a.m. But that's yours. You push the scene from a planning commission to the council, so they are really busy until 2. That's how it should be. But I know
none of us really like staying up till 4 a.m. And the alternative, and it has been proposed, is, when it gets to midnight, we say, okay, the meeting continues tomorrow at 6:45 p.m. and we start all over. And, I'm not unwilling to do that, but often we have people coming from other agencies who are on the schedule to speak. And, and the thing is, we've had a few really controversial items that took a lot of time. Westport, Regnar Creek Trail. And I think the last few meetings, I set the agenda a week and a half before the meeting. It is getting much better. But another reason it lasts long is some former mayors during public comment would cut down the amount of time that residents could speak. And since I was one of those residents, I never liked it. So when I became mayor, that's, the mayor doesn't have much more power than a council member, but one thing we do have the power to do is to cut down the time for public comment. And that is not something I was ever willing to do. You still get your 3 minutes, and if there's 50 people, well, so be it. They will all get to speak because we are here to serve the residents. This is not, we're not here to serve ourselves. We're not here to get rich on our, 10 cents an hour stipend. We're here to serve the residents, and the people move to Cupertino for the quality of life, the quiet suburban character, the diversity, the schools, and it's up to us to preserve that for them. Thanks. Sorry I went on too long.
No, thank you, Scharf. I think, Kitty will still start pushing it to you many projects. It's all on its way. Wait for it. So Sashi, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Gopal. Thank you, everyone, for staying over. I just want to give the candidates 1 minute, and I'm literally going to time you this time. Sure, Mayor Scharf, you're not going to get any more time than a minute to quickly wrap up your case. Every one of you, let's just take a minute. We don't want to keep the people over for very long. So Mayor Scharf, let's get started.
All right, so I would say most of us chose to move here because we wanted the suburban character, the good schools, the diversity. We didn't choose to live in a high density city. We could have, but we didn't. And most of us couldn't afford to live here when we graduated from college. We lived other places. And it was, for me and my family, it was a stretch to move to Cupertino. You know, we could have bought a really nice house down in South San Jose at Silver Creek, but we wanted to be close in a community with the character of Cupertino. And I would just say everyone is welcome here. We don't discriminate. It is expensive to live here. It's expensive to live in Atherton or Hillsborough too, and we can't all live there. So, you know, I just want to keep Cupertino moving forward, and you know, we can. I think we can build a great city. Thanks.
That was fantastic. 55 seconds. So, Kitty, go for it. Kitty.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you, Sashi. So I've already demonstrated that I will fight to defend the residents, and I will go through thousands of pages of environmental impact reports because I actually find a lot of that really interesting, and I will help the residents so that we are not taken advantage of as a community. My priorities are transportation, housing, fiscal soundness, environment, and schools. So I found the CUSD issue very, very intriguing, and that's why I invested my time in it, and I will do what I can in order to help the City Council, help the CUSD, the school district, and their situation. So thank you.
Kitty. Sudha?
Yeah, so today we have three main issues in CUSD. One, budget. Definitely will focus long-term square footage, model for parcel tax, and also in administrating where, and I will use my grassroots experience to rally that support, and I'll also use my administrative experience to make sure that there is transparency in our budget, in our communication. Second, school closure. We can definitely avoid it if we start focusing on our long-term solutions, and I just explained how I can achieve that and use my experience to do that. And third, quality of education. We need to start spending more on the quality of education, start less worrying about the budget and monies, start focusing more on how we can provide more resources, more partnerships with universities, and create more innovators in our district. That's what I would focus on when I get onto the board, because to me, a board member's responsibility is to rally the support of the community and ensure their trust with transparency and communication. And I will promise to stand up for what I believe in and work for the kids. So that's where I would want to, and I respectfully ask all of your vote and support this election. Thank you.
And last but not the least, Govind.
Let me first unmute. Okay, so yeah, I think one of the challenges that we are facing right now is actually the pandemic, and pandemic has got a major impact. It's made a major impact, especially with people who are college bound. We don't realize it, but the thing is, college-bound students, they have a very aggressive program that they need to go through, and typically you don't have like the parental kind of thing that you have in a K-12 system. You know, you and your goal and your academic goals and your other goals in terms of what you want to achieve in your life. So I think that is where the challenge has been in terms of the amount of mental toll that is taking, especially the pandemic by isolation and all that. So students have requested, people who want to avail athletics scholarships, they have asked for whether it's possible for them to be able to do conditioning at the answer. So if I were to be elected, I think the first thing I would like to do is find out how to address pandemic-related challenges. I mean, they are the things which are not going to go away. I mean, it doesn't look like 2021 might have a magic solution to the pandemic, and also in terms of what we are encountering in the economy. So I think that's one area where I would like to kind of spend a little bit of time. Other than that, I already have identified that the student success, the transparency and accountability, the matching programs to industry needs, these are very, very important things that I would like to pursue. And of course, the community support. I think the community support is a big factor, because we must realize it's after all the community that is a part of the community college system. So that's where I would like to spend most of my focus on, other than the three items of student success, transparency and accountability, and also matching programs to needs of the industry.
Thank you, everybody. There were a lot of questions we weren't able to answer. In the chat, you will see the emails of all of the 4 candidates. You should be able to send them direct emails. They'll be happy to answer your questions. I'm sure now that I've committed, they have to answer your questions. But there were a few questions we couldn't get to in the interest of time, and we've already gone over by about 6 or 7 minutes. So thank you again for all of you for taking your time this evening to spend the time with the candidates. And
I'm ready to go to 4 a.m. if you want.
I don't think anybody else wants to.
We are not in the city yet.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Okay,
you.
bye.
Very
Bye.
Thank you, Sashi.
Thank you for all.